Welcome back to the 99, where we're focused on brewing a better competitive commander. I'm your host, Patrick Marlett, and this is a Hidden Gems video where you suggested all the cards. That is the super fans who are over on the Discord. They got to participate in a recent poll concerning what they felt were the best Hidden Gems and Underplayed cards in Commander, and we got a whole bunch of goodies, so many in fact that I had to narrow it down to the top 8, and in that specific order we will be going through all 8 of these that were viewer suggested, and I'll be reading off a quote as to the reasonings as why they are hidden gems. But before we jump into the video today, if you enjoy the content here on the 99 and want to help with its production, the best way to do so is of course with a pledge over on Patreon. There is of course a bunch of benefits tacked onto that, so I'll encourage you to check out the link in the description to see what all of those are. But our brew crew and masters get to participate in the monthly topics, which will happen at the end of this episode, and our brew masters get their very own segment, which I'm very excited to do as soon as I get back from my vacation. It's going to be the first video we jump on once I'm back. Also, gang, if you want to help support indirectly, the best way to do so is when you're picking up your next singles, packs, and more, head on over to TCG Player. It has the best deals, and of course, if you use the link in the description, a small portion of those proceeds will go to help the channel. So whether you're picking up Adventures in the Forgotten Realms and or singles for Modern Horizons, Coldheim, anything else that came out this year that we've just been blazing past, there's a ton of singles I'm still collecting from the past 2 sets, so I don't blame you if you're playing catch up, and plus the prices are hopefully out of the stratosphere and back on Earth. So if you're looking to pick up anything, do use that link, and I thank you for it. Also, lastly, the monthly topic to discuss, and for the month of July, what Magic the Gathering set do you feel had the biggest impact on Commander? And we've gotten a range of responses concerning this, everything from the recent Commander Legends to Commander product at large to specifically Commander 2016 to the recent Masters and Horizons sets to the Fetchland sets like Cons. Guys, there's a ton of interesting responses to this question. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'm in agreement with all of those. I think having a fast and accessible land base is excellent. So anytime Fetchlands are reprinted, that's a good set for Commander. But I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. And of course, I can't wait to share the thoughts of our lovely brew babes. I call them honorary brew babes. Everyone who participated in the recent poll over on Discord, thank you for taking your time and doing that. Also voting on your favorite choices. This was a very fun episode to set up, and I cannot wait to share all of these cards. And again, there are 8 of them, and this is in ranked order. So the last one had the most votes, and that is the one that is most hidden, most important, most essential, or maybe least hidden because it was tucked away in the back. But regardless, we're going to discuss all of them. And the first one is Nimble Obstructionist. I know. For 2 generic, 1 blue, creature, bird, wizard, flash, flying, cycling of 2 generic and 1 blue. When you cycle Nimble Obstructionist, counter target activated or triggered ability you don't control. Oh damn, I really want to hit my own thing. It's a 3/1 flyer at that. Whoa, that's pretty buff. But date of birth, or DOB, Fernando says, it does it all. It's a surprise blocker for Tymna, it's true, Nagila, and the likes, or a flash flyer for Tymna to draw cards, or an uncounterable deal with Thassa or Dockside Extortionist ETB while replacing itself. Yeah, with that being the cycling, if you guys don't know how cycling works, you discard it, you draw a card. And then obviously you have that great effect. The worst case scenario is really just that. It replaces itself if you really need to. My buddy plays it all the time and it rocks. Alright, Dob, Fernando. Date of birth, Fernando. It's funny, I don't see Nimble Obstructionist often. I feel like the one bird that you still see sometimes in cEDH at least is Aven Mind Sensor. While it's not a cycling flash flyer, it is a flash flyer with a decent effect. What's nice about that though is it's static and it remains on the field. So to counter that, we have the Nimble Obstructionist here. And flashing in this card is likely, I would definitely say that is the floor for this card, as opposed to the ceiling, which would be, countering a game-winning activated or triggered ability. And it's funny that we start here. I'm just going to say that. It's funny that we start here, because this card the effect of this card is really important in cEDH, and it's just not seen. You know, if more people played for this effect, I don't think games would end as quickly. Particularly with the cards you mentioned, Thassa's Dockside. And what's funny is, you know, you're like, oh, well, how many opportunities is this going to be in your hand and that's going to be played? Probably often. With how often cards like Thassa's and Dockside are prioritized, Nimble Obstructionist is probably active often. So, you know, the floor seems low, but it's probably gravitating around ear height right over here with me and hits the ceiling often because it, you know, it does more than just replacing itself. And even if you just use this in the silliest way possible, I don't know, like you don't want to stop someone's fetch land, but you could still do that. Like if you were holding your mana and you want to get your mana's worth out of this and slow a more proactive list down and replace it for whatever is on top of your deck, maybe your Imperial Seal, you're getting anxious or whatever the case, this is still really good. I do think it as a body is just fine. Clearly there are effects that utilize bodies being on the battlefield, but I do think it being a 3/1 is actually kind of relevant. A 3/1 flyer at that, mind you. Not that many people play with commanders that are flyers unless you're facing down a Zur, a Kess, or a Crom. And those are really the three main ones I can think of that you typically see. So having a flyer, you're going to get in there, right? And Kess being in Grixis, she cares about her life total. Zur cares about his life total. This is good for beating those people down. So I think the floor is actually a lot higher than people see it. And I think this card's actually really good. Now, would it be nice if it just stopped all activate and triggered abilities just being there? Yeah, it would be really good. Although it would definitely stunt you. However, still a fantastic card, very playable. I mean, it's in the same range as Hull Breacher, and I know people are likely going to prioritize Hull Breacher over this, but that doesn't mean this card is bad. So, moving on. We have the next suggestion, which is Dismantling Wave. For 2 generic, 1 white, sorcery speed, for each opponent, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment that player controls. So you're basically paying 1 mana per opponent, and you can remove any value artifact or enchantment. That's actually really good. That's the floor here. Sorcery speed still, but you do have an instant speed activated ability. We have another cycler here. For 6 generic, double white, discard this card, draw a card. Right. But when you cycle Dismantling Wave, destroy all the artifacts and enchantments. So it turns it... So what I like about this card, and I totally agree with Eld here. And you know what, we'll get into Eld's critique on this card first. I'm sorry. Order. We need to maintain order. Yes, it's 3 mana at sorcery speed, which is a knock against it. But it's also 3 for 1 on its floor. And us talking about floors here. That's how you know you play cEDH. You gotta see where the floor is before you hit it. Hitting artifacts and enchantments. And if you have enough mana, it cycles to destroy all artifacts and enchantments while it replaces itself. And the most important note there is the fact that it scales well and it's instant speed at that point. Mind you, this is almost like a overloaded, it's like overloading the effect or doing the grander version of any of those keyworded effects where you can pump more into it. It's cool. There's a couple of cards like the Decrees that have, and a bunch of cyclers, like we just looked at Nimble Obstructionist, that have value added effects for just cycling the card. And this is definitely one that's slept on easily. I like this quite a bit. As a matter of fact, it's one of the cards I threw in my recent live stream of Oswald Fiddlebender. I keep talking about this guy on the channel and on the Discord, and I'm sorry. But I put this in there immediately because I'm like, well, this is great. Like, I want to have all the artifacts and enchantments. No one else can. Do I think I'm going to cycle this often? Likely not. Likely not. But just the top end of this card is so good because I know I can ramp into this very easily with Oswald. Like, if I've got a artifact land, I got a Darksteel Citadel, I have any 0 CMC rock, I can turn that into a Soul Ring, and I already have the mana made to do Dismantling Wave on command, right? And then I slow everyone down effectively, I have a stacks piece out, I wait my turn. I'm fine with that. I'm setting the pace of the game. This is a really good tempo play. And what's nice is that, like you said, it's a 3 for 1. And in Commander, if you can command the games, the pace of 3 players at once, that's an impressive card. Not that many cards do that. Now, is it really damning getting rid of one guy's Soul Ring, one guy's Sensei's Top, and one person's wild growth? I think so. I think you will see the effect, because if that wild growth was ensuring a turn 2 Sovala, or that Soul Ring was ensuring that that guy could ramp out his own stacks pieces that might stifle your own plan, and I don't even know what the last one I said was, probably not important. So I say Dividing Top? Yeah, like what? Their card quality effect? I think you're in a good spot using this card, and I like it quite a bit. I agree with you. This next card, oh boy. Not to jump off Dismantling Wave like that. It's great. I agree with you. But this next card is so damn good, and I never see it. And I love this guy. I've just never had a list that was appropriate for him. Goblin Crater Maker. For 1 generic, 1 red. Creature Goblin Warrior. 2/2 body. You can pay 1 generic, sacrifice the Goblin Crater Maker. You don't need to tap it, you can do this immediately. That's important. That's actually important. It's like Caustic Caterpillar over your... What's the one that... There's a couple of... It's Caustic Caterpillar over like a Rex Sage. But that's the difference between activated and ETBing. But this is like the cost. It doesn't matter. This is the red Caustic Caterpillar. Not entirely true at all. Goblin Crater Maker deals 2 damage to target creature. Okay. We'll stop there. That's the first mode. What has 2 defense that's really good? I can name a bunch of things, and it's usually the same thing. When you talk to a cEDH player about the things that he hates dealing with, well, it's like that Hull Breacher. It's the Hull Breacher, I'm sorry. It's the Notion Thief. It's any number of hate bears these days. And there are only so many that escape the 2 damage. There are only so many that can get away from 2 damage. Fine. Crater Maker destroys all of them. And the threat of activation is enough to stop players from flashing in their opposition agent. Just having this out there as a deterrent is a deterrent. And that's really good. But on the back end, you also have destroy target colorless non-land permanent. So that's a lot of things. You know what's funny? It's like, you don't... Obviously, we're thinking like stacks pieces, like, oh, I need to storm the Trini Sphere. But, I mean, if you play against me and I'm playing Belby, destroy target colorless non-land permanent, well, I mean, that could be my Ugin, that could be my Kozilek. And I put those things down like by turn 2 or 3 often. So it's not insane or unruly to think that this has added value even early game for stupid shit like that. It's not frequent, okay? It's a very specific deck that utilizes that nonsense, but you know, Void Winnower against this guy's gonna win. he's gonna win so long as he's already on the field, right? But this is fantastic. I love this card. I gotta check. I need to check now. Void Winnower's odds. I have Void Winnower in the list, but I haven't. It's yeah. Your opponents can't cast spells with even converted mana cost. That's right. Okay. Yeah. So long as Goblin Crater Maker's down, it will be able to destroy a Void Winnower. That's pretty good in my book. I think that's fairly good. But again, that's like, I guess that's the hyper ceiling. That's, what would you even call that? We're talking about floors and ceilings here. I don't even work in construction. I don't know anything about architecture. Don't ask me about that. Next card. Moving on. I go off on tangents. If this is your first episode of this channel, welcome to the 99. All right. We have Mystic Reflection next. This card isn't even that old, but it doesn't see enough play, I gotta tell you, because I just know it's in one of Justin's decks, and that's it. So far as our group is concerned, this is definitely underutilized. I can agree with that. For 1 generic, 1 blue, instant speed, choose target non-legendary creature. Cool. The next time 1 or more creatures or planeswalkers enter the battlefield this turn, they enter as copies of the chosen creature. Now, you can also foretell this. Well, what is that, Pat? What is this mystery keyword? Well, if you forgot already, during your turn, you may pay 2 and exile this card from your hand face down. During your turn. Okay. Cast it on a later turn for its foretell cost. So it's a special action. I guess you could do this at instant speed. So long as it's your turn, you can do it at any time on your turn. Regardless, you're going to drop this down. It's face down. There aren't that many useful foretell cards, so your opponents are probably going to be able to guess what you're using in blue, but that's okay. The element of surprise might be gone, but it's still a very good card. Now, Mr. Blonde, 07. I glazed over. That's okay. I'll go back. Before we talk about Mystic Reflection. Order, damn it, order. I'm going to start. This is a new segment. This is a new take on this video. Jeff, good game on Goblin Crater Maker. It's back on screen. It's back on screen. Flexible removal. It kills annoying hate creatures. Oof, Up, Agent, Hull Breacher, Sentinel, Dothy, Thalia. Yeah, I named a few more than I did. And destroys artifacts and colorless planeswalkers. Karn, I guess. You've never fought my Belby, Jeff GG. It has a relevant creature type, yes it does, which can be fetched with Matron or cast used with Snoop. And that's what I was saying. I don't really care about this creature typing, but if I had a deck that wanted this, yeah. At the very least, it's 2 mana, 2/2. It can push ad nauseam player's life, and it blocks. Hi, Timna. If nothing else. Yeah, Jeff GG. Wow, great minds. It's almost like I had read this comment before going on my rant, and I promise from here on out, I will read all your comments, Mr. Blondo7. On Mystic Reflection, value and denial all in one. Oh, and foretell. Gain a copy of an opponent's dockside, turn their Thoracle into a Llanowar Elves? Who knows? It may even make Julienne fries. Almost verbatim what I was going to say. And it does make Julienne fries. Really good ones. So, Mystic Reflection, I don't think, it's not really important to discuss the utility of this effect, more of the fact that it goes unplayed because it's inherent. You can literally, any non-legendary creature on the field, and it could just be the Llanowar Elf, or it could just be the useless creature. It could be something that you gave someone a spirit token from your Forbidden Orchard. Make it that. Your Tevesh is that. You're welcome. Didn't you always want a 1/1 spirit? You complained when I didn't give it to you, right? Jokingly, because you're like, oh, I'm gonna sack this with this Tevesh and draw some cards. Don't give me the spirit. No, I'll give you the spirit. Just not the spirit you wanted. It's an extremely good card. I agree with Mr. Blonde. I agree with its ranking in the tier here as number 4 on our list, leading up to the top 1 spot. This is number 5 on the list. This is fantastic. It could honestly be higher on the list. It goes unplayed. The thing is, you don't need it for the foretell. I think that's a cute gimmick. I think this at 2 is very good. And again, I think stopping like a Thassa's win is important. Being able to stop creature-based wins this way is extremely important. And, Thassa came out, but, what if it's like a Mike Trike combo? You can literally stop that from occurring. It could be any number of creature-based combos that you get to stop. Now, the tricky bit here, then the only downside, in my opinion, is the fact that it's non-legendary creatures, and a lot of cEDH lists predominantly play for their commanders, and those commanders happen to be legendary. So it can be tricky if you're working around a meta that isn't playing for creatures. But even if it's just like your one pal plays Najila, give someone a soldier, right? And that's giving Mystic Reflection more than enough value, in my opinion. But the next card, and there are actually, it was interesting. This card came up twice in the poll, and I thought it would only be fair because both of them got an absurd amount of votes, and they both had really good opinions on this card. And we're gonna go over their opinions first after I read this card. Okay, making sure I do that. Evolutionary Leap. Pat. We're gonna read their quotes. 1 generic, 1 green, enchantment. Pay a green, sacrifice a creature. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card into your hand and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So it's almost like a random value. And it really fits the essence of this card, the name of this card. It's a very unique effect. Some people call it the budget survival of the fittest. It's not quite the same thing. But it's still decent. And I'll let you know how decent by telling you what wait, we're gonna start with literal garbage to electric boogaloo. Their quote, and then we'll go over Hitzel's quote. So, While I largely use this in casual Corvold as a value engine right now, it can easily be used as repeatable tutor in a polymorph style way. Yeah, that's true. For example, if you forego running dorks and play Rograk plus green, Rograk green, which is funny because I guess who gives a shit what the other partner is? Because you have Rograk. It can tutor a single creature to your hand. It's probably best under a commander that makes a couple of tokens, though. For example, like a Tana or Tavesh, right? Tana makes sense. But Tana would make enough tokens on each hit to tutor up, for example, Grand Architect plus Pillar Pala, or any other 2-card creature combo. And I mean, you're talking, I mean, you have Kiki Jiki in there too. You could do this with, yeah, there's a ton of different things you can do with this. And I agree, that makes sense. Like a pseudo polymorph. And green doesn't really have polymorph, except it has this. The only unfortunate bit is that, you know, it goes to your hand, so it's not quite the same. Next up, we have Hitzel. Lots of decks can cash in mana dorks and other small creatures for better draws, especially mono green, where it's also an excellent infinite mana outlet and a way to power through storm turns. Yeah, I want to dissect these in a second. You can also use this to sack a stacks piece before going off, which is surprisingly feasible since most stacks cannot stop an enchantment from activating. Interesting. Very interesting. I guess you've never seen... What is that card I don't use anymore? There's a white enchantment that makes it cost 2 more to activate activated abilities suppression field. I don't know if that's the name of the card. It's okay. Someone will find it. And then I'll put it in the comments. And I will pin it to the comment section. Okay. Many mistakenly write this card off as a survival of the fittest that can't tutor, which, when in reality, it's more of a greater good that cost half as much mana. People dismissing it like that is why I think it's a hidden gem. Also, it gets around Hullbreacher and Agent. And fuck those 2 cards. Hitzel didn't say that. That was entirely me. I definitely think it's more along the lines of a polymorph, right? A polymorph 2-hand. So, not as good. Green couldn't go that far. It wasn't going to go the whole distance because give it to red. Just keep giving it to red, and blue already has it. Blue has everything. People say green has everything. Look at the backlog of blue cards. They have everything. I don't really see it as a greater good card. It does replenish your hand, but not in the same sense. I do love this conceptually, though, from where both of you are coming from. I think Hitzel makes sense with it being perfect. Once you have infinite mana, right? Once you have infinite mana in a green storm list, say this is your Savala, right? Well, how do I get an infinite pool of creatures to sacrifice? Savala. Just sacrifice Savala. And then you just pull through all your creatures. You play all your creatures. And I know a lot of folks that play mono green usually, you know, clap down a Crater Hoof and try to end the game that way. You could do that, or, you know, there's any number of combos in mono green. And this is a great way to pull through all those creature-based solutions. A lot of green lists rely on creature-based solutions, so this is fantastic for that, particularly if you've stormed off and have made the infinite mana already. I think that's actually really smart, and something that probably Ashaya and most of these green lists can benefit with, even outside of Savala. But I love that conceptually, and I like the idea of this being a good partner pairing utility. Now, mind you, you do have to prioritize this. So in regards to literals, thoughts on this card being utilized in the sense of like a Rograk plus whatever build, I do think having, not that Rayhan's fantastic, but do have, if you're in Jund, you at least have the black tutors to make this a more accessible card for you. Right, and or white, right? You do green, white. Not that anyone plays Sidar. I don't know if there's another Selesnian partner, but you would have at least Enlightened Tutor or some of the enchantment-based tutors define this. Because if you want to prioritize this and you do have a pseudo polymorph build, when you are playing partners, obviously being Rograk, you have Transmogrify, Reality Scramble, so you already have those in spades, and you can add this to your arsenal, and I think it's actually quite good for that. I do like the idea of being able to chop down on. We'll get past stacks pieces via the fact that nothing's really stopping enchantments from activating. But 2, you can get rid of your own stacks elements if you need to in some cases. And I don't recommend playing a card in the 99 that can sacrifice a potential hiccup for you. Like our recent live stream where I discussed Oswald Fiddlebender. Like I run Null Rod on that list, and I intend to keep it there because you can dictate when, and it's like 60% artifact. That's stupid, Pat. Well, I can dictate when it stays and when it goes. So yeah, I don't mind it. And in much the same way, you can do that with Evolutionary Leap and a Stax Hate Bear creature. But I wouldn't recommend trying to aim for that if this is in the 99 and not the command zone. However, it's really good. I don't evaluate this card that highly normally, but after hearing these thoughts on this card, I definitely want to slam it in a few more lists. I do think it's an oversight on players to consider this a lesser survival of the fittest. I think it's definitely in its own card. It's its own class of card, and it can be very good as an outlet. Like a survival of the fittest, it's not. If I have infinite mana and I don't have a creature in my hand, survival of the fittest is not as good as this. Does that make sense? I know it's crazy to say, but this actually does more than survival of the fittest if I have infinite mana, which is, well, you know, the solution to a lot of decks. So I agree with, I like this a lot. The price is going to explode after this video. We'll see. But we're getting to the top of the list, and at number 3 spot, this is madness. I've only used this in one deck, and it was good. We have Signal the Clans for Gruul. You weren't expecting this, were you? Instant speed. Search your library for 3 creature cards and reveal them. If you reveal 3 cards with different names, choose one of them at random and put that card into your hand. Shuffle the rest into your library. So, before I ever spout anything about this card, Akamira says, this is a 2-mana instant speed creature tutor to hand. This is true, somewhat true. If you're running a strategy that has multiple support pieces, like using Gigantha, Bloom Tender, Fabro Elder, and A5 color Sisay, then it's guaranteed one of them will get put into your hand. Yeah, it's almost like intuition for blue. Like, do you have a pile for Signal the Clans? If you play this card, do you have 3 creatures that are generally going to do the same thing or amount to the same outcome? If so, well, then it's really good. Like if you, I don't know, we're in Gruul, so let's just say that we need a solution. We have an infinite combo line in hand, and it could use either Dockside Extortionist or Dual Caster Mage, whatever. We have a Heat Shimmer and, well, Dockside, whatever. We want Dockside. So I can grab Dockside, I can grab Dual Caster Mage, and then I can grab my Imperial Recruiter. Oh, okay. So no matter what I get, I still get one or the other, right? You know, pending mana, this could be good, this could be bad. But the fact that it's instant speed means that if, you know, I get the lesser option of getting Imperial Recruiter, that's actually not a bad thing, like off turn. Because one, I put the creature down, and then when I want to do the Heat Shimmer combo with the Dual Caster Mage that I put into my hand, I have a body to target with it, right? And this is more important if you're using Twin Flame. If you don't know the combo, then que sera. But it's great on your turn for doing infinite Dual Caster Mage Human Wizard damage. But there's one line of play, and this is just one that comes to mind that exists in Gruul. And obviously, there's a bunch of different piles you can form for this. So I totally agree. I think that, you know, this was even a different angle of approach here. It was just like, this is value, this is value, this is value. But I look at this more like an intuition, in a sense, where can I form a line of play, or is there a strategy I can develop around utilizing this on the cast and have it be game ending, right? Because there's a lot of power in effects like this. Mind you, you know, the other ones get put away at random. That's okay. You still get one back in your hand, but it's fantastic for executing on game plans. You are broadcasting, in effect, what you're looking for, but we can get around that. I like this a lot. I think that shooting for value, shooting for combos, it's much the same. It's a good card, especially at instant speed and in these colors. Wow, this is interesting. These last two are really interesting because, and I did vote on some of these, so, but I didn't put both of these all the way up here This next one's really interesting and is definitely underutilized for easily under 50 cents. I don't know what this is in Europe or to any of our friends overseas. But Kaya's Ghost Form, I mean, it's a common. How expensive can it get? For 1 black enchantment or a enchanted creature or planeswalker you control. Enchant creature or planeswalker you control. When enchanted permanent dies or is put into exile, what? Return that card to the battlefield under your control. Wow. Jacuzzi Jake says, most decks need their commander, creature, planeswalker card to facilitate deck functionality. Most common removal is destroy and exile. Yeah. This protects from both. Even better if your commander, creature, planeswalker has an ETB effect, most folk don't run enchantment removal. 1 mana protection, sign me up. So, it's usually red and black that have hiccups removing enchantments. In green, you know, you'll run, if you have green and you are able to splash in more colors in this list, like you have the Assassin's Trophy, the Abrupt Decay, the Nature's Claim, the Natural State, the whatever, right? White has good removal as well, Fragmentize, all that stuff. And so there's a couple of cards, Wear and Tears out there, that help the red players out. No one's gonna aim at the Kaya's Ghost Form, I don't think, because it's a 2-step procedure, right? Like, I can remove Kaya's Ghost Form and then I get everyone on board. Hey, use that Deadly Rollick now to help me get rid of this Planeswalker. Unless it's really putting a stop to everyone, no one's gonna care. You know what's funny? I like this card. This is one of those cards that when I saw this, I bought it. I have a copy behind me. I usually just pick up singles of value cards or cards I can foresee being good in the future. And I don't know why. I don't run this in Rograk and cEDH. Like, it's very good. Because instead of paying, if you've ever seen me play this, if you've ever played me while I play this deck, I usually rush out cEDH immediately, by turn 1 most games. And I will just eat Rograk consistently. So instead of making Rograk a 2-drop the next time around, I can pay 1 to make Rograk free, right? So it's a mana difference of 1, but it's significant when you're counting, you know, every single mana you use on a turn to ensure that you can execute a win quickly. It's all about efficiency of play. So in that list, like, this is really good. And this actually protects both of them, because in instances where I'm not on the play, I'm not the first player, I'm the 4th player in the pod, and everyone's rushing out these creatures that are going to definitely swing at cEDH, I need something to keep them alive. And Lord knows, I don't want to be using my turns to just put Thrall out. I want to draw into solutions. I want to win the game. So putting this on cEDH is equally as good. And it's equally as good with any, you know, Planeswalker you might be using, legendary creature you might be using in the command zone. It doesn't have to be your commander. It could just literally be any value piece. It could even be your Hull Breacher, right? We mentioned Hull Breacher earlier. It could be anything that's giving you value that you do not want to be removed so easily, because it being a 2-step process is going to put off a lot of people. And depending on the pod, they might not even be trying to politic or work with each other to handle the situation. You know, I've been at some tables where you get made the enemy very quickly if one person knows what you're up to, right? But if you put more obstacles in their way, it's going to be more difficult for them to make that decision. And they might be selfish and just try to play for themselves. At least that's the hope with Kaya's Ghost Form. And if you can make people go through that mental arithmetic for 1 black and have the protection on hand, I totally agree with Jacuzzi Jake. This is definitely a hidden gem and certainly deserves to be played more. And as a matter of fact, I kind of want to, I don't know if my copy's foil, but I might buy a foil copy to put in my deck now, because it's really good. I like it a lot. And obviously, you know, you can combo with this too, with Boonweaver Giant with a sack outlet. So how about that? How about them apples? But yeah, it's a combo card and it's just a good value piece. Definitely use it. Now, last up on the list, I know you're all anxious. So, you know, how long has this video been going? Yeah, you want to know. You want to know what the final card was, what was voted on the most. Well, if you're not on the Discord, you can actually just go over the votes and see what was voted on the most. But in the #1 spot, Luke the Storm player made this suggestion. And it was a good one, and a lot of people agreed. Let's see if this turns the tide for Tail's End. For 1 generic, 1 blue, instant speed, counter target activated ability, triggered ability, or legendary spell. When you are gone, will anyone remember your story? Unknown. Wow, what flavor text. I've actually never read the flavor text. Randy Vargas crushing it with that sweet-ass art. And to answer the question, I think not. I think you just don't win Thassa's Oracle. I think you just don't Tevesh cast. It really depends. It doesn't. This is a good card, and I don't. That's why I stopped. I'm like, I need to do something else. Luke the Storm player. Excuse me, not Jacuzzi Jake. We're done. We're done with Kaya's Goatswarm. Hits kill on sight commanders, planeswalkers like Oko and Tez the Seeker, as well as most importantly, killing a player trying to Thoracle for the win. Cause fuck that. Luke didn't say that. Just for the extra utility to hit commanders and planeswalkers, I play Tail's End in most of my cEDH decks over most Stifle effects. And to be perfectly honest, I think that Stifle is 1 blue, right? You know, so far as like, is 2 mana, yeah, Stifle's 1 blue. Is 2 mana cost prohibitive? No. 1 generic, 1 blue is not cost prohibitive. I think that people undervalue this because they don't want to be playing for a one-time effect, right? But what's odd to think is that, you know, every spell on the stack is like a one-time effect, and we run counters out the wazoo. Now counters do more, right? They hit more, and maybe that thing isn't a one-time effect. Maybe it's a Razaketh, right? So like if I stop him from getting 1 tutor, is that significant enough, right? If I stop you from using your evolutionary leap once, is that significant enough? And the thing is, yes, it can be. If the guy utilizing Razaketh only had the 1 creature and does not have sufficient enough mana to recast their commander, well then they have effectively stopped, and everyone has a chance to just thrash this player. So it can be significant enough. The evolutionary leap, I don't know. That's a different story. But people sort of, you know, brush this off to the side because activated and triggered abilities, it's not as thought of as concerning. But when you look at what's really propelling players' games forwards, it really is those ETBs, specifically the ETBs, like those enter the battlefield triggers. That is really what people push in the cEDH setting to, you know, rush out wins. And there's a lot of, you know, obviously Thassa's Oracle being the main win con we can think of. That's really important. But beyond the Thassa's Oracle, because we talk about that too much, it could be the Animate Dead targeting the Razaketh. It could literally be the Razaketh. It could be the Kiki Jiki that's tapping, just to name a few of the combo cards we've mentioned here. But it could also just be the Godo entering the battlefield. Thinking of you, Phil. Stop that. Stop that. Just, aren't you content with just Godo? And that's the thing. It's such a good blue spell, and it definitely deserves the #1 spot, but I think it comes down to that typical conversation we have about blue, and that it has so many good forms of interaction that a lot of great ones get tossed by the wayside. If this was in any other color, if this was a white spell, it would be used. If this same spell was green, it would be used, because it is so darned good. But again, alas, it being in blue is actually its downfall. It's the tail's end of this card is the fact that it happened to be in blue, and it will go unknown. But thank you, Luke, for bringing it to light, and thank you to all of you who participated in this recent Hidden Gems poll. I had a blast doing this video. These are some of my favorite to do. You know, this is a singleton format, and that's what's unique about it, in a sense that you do get to use some different cards, some oddball effects. We're not just slamming 4 of the best cards into all of our lists, because we can't do that. And there still is that mystique to this, you know, particular format, and I really like that about it. And it's always fun discussing cards that we don't typically see play. But guys, thank you so much for participating and joining me on this one, and you, the viewer, for joining me on this historic event. Again, join the Discord if you haven't yet. We will be holding many more community-based videos here on the channel. They're a blast for me to do. But guys, as I do with all these videos, I'd like to thank one random Patreon member, and that Patreon member today is Billy. Billy has been a brew baby since January of this year. Thank you, Billy, for joining the Brew Baby crew. You are among the best, but you don't need to hear me say that because you already know it. And concerning the monthly topic, I'll be reading for Brendan77222. Commander 2016 was definitely a tipping point for cEDH, but as far as regularity is concerned, I feel the overall impact of Commander's specific products has gone slowly downhill. Commander Legends came close to that line, but didn't cross it with the Commander Black Lotus and Jeweled Lotus. But outside of that, the If You Control Your Commander free spells was the first time since 2016 that I felt cEDH was significantly impacted. But with the first and second Modern Horizons set, I'm starting to lean to print straight to Modern sets as the most impactful at this point. And I could definitely see that. It's crazy the amount of value that Commander players have been receiving from these Modern sets, specifically Modern Horizons. Like Modern Horizons 2 was really good for Commander players, specifically with the fetch land reprints and some of the great cards that came from that set. I'm really looking at you, Esper Sentinel, because I'm enjoying you quite a bit. You know, do you play equally well late game? Not always, but you're good, and I like you. And Dothy Voidwalker, I like you. And there are just a ton of great cards from these recent sets, but I'm with you there, Brendan. I agree with that one quite a bit. And again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this very topic as well, just down there in the comments section below. But guys, thank you for joining me on this episode. Be sure to tune in weekly for live streams, YouTube shorts, and of course, these weekly episodes. Again, my name is Patrick Marlett, and happy brewing, babies.